Welcome, everybody, to another Microsoft Unboxed Pod. This is episode 81. We are in the second week of January. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by.
David Allen, hope everybody out there is doing well. And if you're in a cold area, I hope you're staying warm. If you're in a warm area, then I'm jealous. Please send me some warm air.
Yes, I, in Florida, am in a cold area for once. I'm going to say once that we've had a polar vortex hit us every so often in the last 5 years. Thank you, climate change. So I am in a hoodie yet again. Those of you who may be wondering, like, he's always in a hoodie. Well, I'm in a hoodie because it's cold outside and not just in my office normally. So that is what I'm doing today. But enough about me. This isn't a pod about me. This is a pod about Microsoft and Microsoft news. We're going to be talking about Apple launching Apple Creator Studio. I know it's not Microsoft, but it is tech related. And I'm sure my partner has some choice words for that. We're going to let David off the leash on that one right off the bat, ladies and gentlemen. So get your cup of coffee, your beverage of choice, sit back and enjoy that. We're also going to be talking about Apple once again admitting defeat. We said it last week about the Apple credit card. They're doing so now when it comes to Siri and Google Gemini. We'll get into the details of that. Microsoft community first AI makeover. They are trying to what I think should be called the terms AI washing, where everyone's made this huge investment. Now they're all trying to justify it. And Microsoft has a 4-point plan on how they plan to make everyone enamored with AI. Again, they weren't off to a good start last week when Satya Nadella opened his mouth and now helped coin the term microslop because he wanted everyone to stop talking about AI slop. It was we'll talk about that too. It was another own goal by the company. So we'll see them moonwalking a little bit for AI. We're also going to be talking about Microsoft stock being down 10% because of AI. And interestingly enough, as they try to lead the way, we'll explain the details of why that's happening and how Microsoft seems a little bit unfazed by it. We'll also be talking about Meta laying off 1,000 workers and shutting down its VR studios. They have also had to backtrack and say, all right, remember that whole don't call us Facebook, we're Meta, we're grown up now, we're going to be chasing the metaverse because that's the next big thing. Well, I think they're going to change their name probably in a couple months to just AI because that is what they're chasing next. We're also talking about Call of Duty sales collapsing about 60%. Those of you who are out there enjoying the game, don't even worry about this. This won't change necessarily much for you, but we're going to explain what it could change in the next couple iterations and why Bobby Kotick was like, thanks for the golden parachute. I'm out. I saw this coming. And then we're going to round up the podcast with EA Play and what we're going to be doing this weekend. Before we get started with any of that, we want to take some time. We're going to start try and get this section going every podcast to allow us, the host, to get something off our chest. And then in turn, you can also do the same. And maybe when we read your comments, we'll incorporate that into this section. What's kind of been bothering you about tech over the last week or 2 weeks now, because I don't think we did last week. David, go. What has been bothering you? It could be anything from your router not working to subscription services to more AI, or maybe even just spam calls or spam email overflowing.
Well, I think, and I'm gonna take the leash off here in just a minute. I'm kind of fed up with subscription services right now because, as we talked about at the end of last year, it was interesting when Canva came out with their new Canva subscription programs to fight with Adobe. And the very day that those subscriptions came out, I was given 2 months free of Adobe usage, Adobe Creative Cloud. I think you might have been too. It was something we had talked about, and those are up for renewal for me. Adobe subscription renews this month, and I'm looking at the Adobe subscriptions. I'm looking at the options. I'm looking at the Canva options, and this Apple option that we're getting ready to discuss. And I'm like, okay. You look at Filmora, even, let's bring the smaller guys in. You look at Filmora and you look at some of the others, except for maybe DaVinci Resolve. Everybody is headed toward a subscription. Maybe not because of your software, but if you want all those AI goodies, you now have to pay for it. I understand that things have to be paid for, but we're getting to a place where everything is a subscription. Your TV is a subscription. Your streaming services are. Some you can pay yearly for and get a discount. Some you can't. And I'm just in a subscription burnout. I feel like, I open my bank statements every month and I'm like, subscription. Oh, I paid a power bill. Look at there. Subscriptions. Water bill. Oh, there's another subscription. And you're having to pick and choose what you want. And I think we've got bless me.
Question.
I think we've got a subscription bubble getting ready to burst.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I am also getting subscription fatigue. And again, we've talked about this over the course of 80 podcasts about why we were in here. For those of you who, again, maybe living under a rock or have just joined us for the podcast for the first time, we're here because line must go up. Companies realized and figured this out. I think, ironically, we can point to Salesforce back in the day, figuring out that if you pivot from offering what Microsoft used to, which is your one box paid service like Office or Windows, that if you turn to a subscription model, you can slowly turn the dial on customers so that line constantly goes up. And so Salesforce figured it out with their CRM tools, things like that, and turning it to a subscription model. Everyone else quickly followed suit. Apple has, we saw in their recent reporting that their software and services department has, cracked another milestone for them, because again, they figured out once we get you on Apple TV or Apple Music, Apple TV, these things where you don't own anything, but you get to use it, we can slowly turn the dial from $199 to $299 to $399 until 4 years later, you're paying $25, $30 because you don't own anything, but you need access to it because you've invested all this time, you've created playlists and all these other things. And if you turn it off, you lose it. So I'm hoping that we get back to more of an analog thing. And I know I am considered whatever Gen I am. I know that I'm not one of the Zoomers. There are Zoomers, younger people who are becoming a little bit more analog as I read more and more stories. Now, again, we're not fully in that mode, and I don't know if they'll save us from ourselves, but they are becoming the kids who use wired headphones and realize that their phone, they just want to go outside and do things and not necessarily be tied to their phone as much. There's obviously a gradation of people who are still hooked to social media and things like that, but there is a small growing rebellion of people who are saying, hey, it's just too much. Maybe collecting records, even though they're more expensive, is a way to hone and craft your music so that we can all eventually jump off. I jumped off Spotify a while ago, but other people could. We can get off these streaming services by just saying, hey, we're just going to enjoy the one thing that we pay for as long as we can, and then move on to the next thing when we can afford to. That's my hope. That's my dream. My thing, I'm gonna make it short so we can get into the news, is that I am tired of not being able to talk to a person in customer service. I feel like we are losing that more and more every day. I was trying to unlock a phone the other day, and this is with AT&T, so I'm calling you guys out. It took me 10 minutes to get to an actual person. And, they get on the phone, they're like, hey, if your questions first the automated system comes on and asks, hey, what can I help you with? And I'm like, speak with a customer service rep. And they're like, oh, well, I can do this. Would you like me to do A, blah, 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 B, blah, 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 C, blah? I'm like, no, speak to a customer service rep. And they're like, all right, well, I need a little more information. And I'm like, speak to a customer, stop talking to me, weird robot person, just put the customer service person on. So they asked about 7 other questions before they said they can get to me. And then they asked me, oh, would you like me to have the customer service rep text you in a chat? I'm like, nope, I'm not falling for that. I know it's AI and it's a robot and it's you. And they're like, well, our customer service reps are all busy at the moment. Every time I'm like, if I can't get to a person, I know other people aren't getting to a person. How is this customer service rep that busy? Or do you just not have that many? Or is this just a way to make sure that I get tired and just give up and be like, you know what, fine, robot, you take over. And most of the options were none of the things I needed. I kept asking, like, I need to unlock a phone, so which means I need to speak to somebody to tell them what the code is, so that I can confirm that the phone is unlocked. Because if I give it to you, you might say, hey, here's a text message, and follow up with an email to verify. And I'm like, no, if I just speak to a person and they walk me through it and I walk them through this whole process, we can be done in less than 2 minutes, which again, when I got to the person, lovely individual. The gentleman was amazing. We got it done in less than 2 minutes. Like I said, he and I even had a conversation afterwards because, they're also part sales rep where he was trying to like, upsell me on two more plans. And I joked about, how, my wife would kill me if I got any more lines. So it was fun and it was enjoyable. And I know it's not the case for everybody. And I know there are introverts who don't want to speak to anybody, but as an old person, I just want to talk to somebody. That is my rant.
Went through a similar thing a couple months ago with Verizon just to get a line cut off. They're like, why do you want to cut it off? I'm like, it doesn't matter. And just to give people some insight, it was my dad's line. So I was, getting rid of it. And they're like, why do you want to cut it off? And, they kept pushing, well, we can discount it. We can do this. We can turn it upside down and flip it over and put it on your bill 6 months later. They're doing everything they can to keep that line. I finally just had to tell the nice lady, look, it was my father's line. He passed away and it's no longer needed. And when that happened, it was like everything deflated. She was like, oh my gosh, I have tried to get this guy to keep a line. And I'm like, yeah, if you had just listened to my repeated statements of just want to cancel a line after it took me 20 minutes to get to you, we're 40 minutes in and all I want to do is cancel a line, and I should be able to cancel the line in the app without having to, when I click cancel, I understand, ask me a couple times to confirm it. I get that mistakes happen, but after you ask me a few times in the app to confirm that I want to cancel a line, that should be it. It shouldn't get to the end and say, we're sorry, we would like to keep your business. Please call to cancel this line, and then put you through 20 more minutes of stuff.
Dang it, David. What didn't you just hear about in our opening part of this podcast? The line must go up. And when you cancel a line, their line goes down. It is like what are you, un-American? Line must go up at all costs.
Well, I'm sorry.